Okay, so report writing. And I bring this up because when I'm inspecting a system, the inspection starts here and ends here. So if I'm inspecting, let's use HVAC, heating and cooling, for example. So my example is John Doe's heating system is working. However, the AC side of the system is not working. It's not responding. There's no way to turn it on by using normal operating controls, such as a thermostat. And in other words, it can't be tested. So I can't tell you what's going on with it. So the inspector reports that the AC unit is not working and recommends further evaluation by a qualified licensed HVAC contractor immediately. Is that alone considered enough to cover the issue with that system?
No.
Or should the inspector also have included the AC unit has other visible defects, such as a missing safety pan, a missing safety switch, or an electrical AC disconnect that's the wrong size per manufacturer? So are you following that question?
I've got it.
Okay, go for it.
First and foremost, we do not go to manufacturing specifications because we are not experts in that field. So that is an out to start with. But what we say is that before the close of escrow, a specialist in HVAC needs to go through the entire system, in that we are not specialists in the manufacture or in the installation of this particular unit. Something like that. So what you need to say is you leave room for something else, but it's the system. They must review the entire system, and it must be during the escrow period.
Okay, so then I would change my wording to recommend further evaluation of the entire heating and cooling system
during the escrow.
Well, what I typically put is before the end of your inspection contingency period and the close of escrow.
Yes. In fact, it is even better if you leave out before the close of escrow, because it's during the contingency period. Remember, they can extend the contingency period.
Oh, so just the close of escrow will suffice?
No, it will be during the contingency period.
Okay.
The contingency period may come to the day of escrow.
Got it. Okay.
It may be before.
Okay.
You don't want to get in that area at all.
Okay. So that would be enough to cover the example I gave you if I worded that correctly.
Yes. Now, there's one other thing that you want for each system, though. When you go to a system, you have a heading at the top, and it basically gives a brief layman's-like instruction, yes, on exactly what is in each system and why it's so important to have an expert. If there is a warning, a call-out of any condition found within that system, it is the responsibility that an expert come out and run the complete system and give you an evaluation, again, of the complete system, not just what you found.
Right.
We have a case that just finished about a year ago, and it had to do with that exact issue where there was a flooding of the house, and of course the realtor didn't tell anybody about it. It was a fix and flip. But to make the long story short, is that the home inspector found areas in which there was a question of water intrusion and called out for that very issue to look through all of the HVAC system, because they basically had vents in the house on the floor. So with all of that in mind, it said the complete system. Now, we walked away from that case, and they got a little over $1 million and change, and we were dismissed for a waiver of cost at the time of trial. The reason why was we had an attorney fees clause, and they would have never got us.
Okay. So, I mean, thanks for shedding light on my question there. That was kind of where I was thinking it would be, but I wanted to bring that up for all the listeners to get a grip on that, because, once again, where does the CREIA standards of practice, which is what I follow, does not say specifically where my HVAC inspection starts. It doesn't say what thing to look at. It doesn't say what exact component. It'll say heating system, cooling system,
generically.
Yeah, generically. So as a home inspector, this is something that comes in that rings in my brain quite often. It's like, okay, well, I start here and I end here. If I'm going through steps 1 through 10 and I get to step 5 and this thing's a mess.
You stop at 5.
That's the question.
The point of it is you are not the expert. You are the person who generically finds a condition. Think of yourself as a GP.
Yeah.
General practitioner. And a person comes in and you do a physical exam and you hear what you believe to be a heart murmur. You don't treat him for his heart murmur. You send him to a cardiologist.
Right.
The same thing applies here.
Sure.
You are a generalist. You always send them for a complete, in essence, physical exam of that system.
Right.
You
Exactly.
differ.
So here is another scenario for the same type of system. So I'm inspecting a system and it looks like Daffy Duck installed it. I mean, it's just a mess, which takes me a minute or two to realize just by looking at one section of it here, one section of it. It's ridiculous. I see this a lot. You know, Joe homeowner put it in or the cheapest guy down the street put it in.
Oh,
so what I do,
good.
So what I do when I see that, even if it's running, even if it's working, even if the temperature splits are decent, I call out to my client and I let them know non-standard installation of the entire HVAC system has been observed. I'm recommending you get the entire system further evaluated before the end of your escrow and contingency period. Would that blanket cover the whole system if I see that?
Yes, I would use the term, there are abnormalities present in the system.
Abnormalities.
Yeah. Abnormalities is a very interesting, large word that covers a lot of different areas. There are conditions present which do not appear standard. There are abnormalities. And as a generalist, I'm calling this out for a complete inspection of the HVAC system as a for safety reasons.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's a good answer. Because that's not the answer I had.
No, remember,
Yeah.
we all grow and we all learn and we all modify. Everybody amends their own stuff. Yeah.
That's why I brought it up, because it's, you know, I can say the same thing for a water heater.
Or electrical
water heaters,
system.
Yeah. Electrical system. Same thing. I have those types of comments ready to go in my reports if I see an electrical upgrade and it looks like, you know, Daffy Duck installed it or whatever, you know. The whole Looney Tunes gang was there.
Or different wiring.
Yeah.
Or any of those things. The point of it is you are the GP.
Yeah.
You defer to the specialist. And by doing it that way, that is the real protection for your client. You are not hurting your client. You're helping your client.
Right.
I'll give you an example of one I just got in. It's a house on the side of the hill. It had massive foundation problems where the foundation was falling in itself and turning. There was a wall, a retaining wall. Mm-hmm. There were problems all over. The home inspector did a magnificent report with photographs documenting this beyond existence. I represent the structural engineering company that came in that only could get a limited view of it. That occurred in 2016. 1 year statute of limitations, again, I wrote their contract. The next event that takes place in 2 years later, in 18, it's getting worse, and there's actually a separation inside the house, and they were never allowed to come in the house. Now we're at 2022, and they're bringing a lawsuit right now. The answer is we have so much information because there were deference, etc. The answer is this is really what occurred, and this happens all the time. Somebody doesn't really want to pay the full cash price, so they find these things, and they go back and renegotiate it. Now, of course, the fact that the the buyer, his wife had just passed the bar and was a very bright lady. And the husband was in high tech and knew that these problems, and they saw the fact that this was a problem. And one of the foundation walls that was holding back, where the garage was located up above, they could see it deteriorating. So they went back, and we don't know how much money they got back, but they got I was about to say something else, a large amount. And they pocketed the money. They didn't fix anything. And now they're
shocking.
Shocking, yes.
Shocking
Startling.
chain of events, yeah.
Anyway, the bottom line of it is that's where we are now, and we are in litigation. Well, we will be in litigation soon. We have to go to a mediation. But I have told the structural company, stop worrying about it. You have an attorney fees clause. Yes, I will be getting a lot of money, and I thank you for it, but I'll get it back.
Right. You just mentioned litigation. Can you explain what litigation means in that format?
We see it on TV all the time about somebody suing somebody else. I have to tell you, some of the TV stuff is really pretty
So it's
good.
just the process is called litigation.
Yes, it's a process, and it starts with notification, mediation, a complaint, then the cross complaints, and then you get through all this litigation stuff, and you go through another mediation, and then the judge says, no, you guys are going to go to trial. You go to trial. It ends. Then you have the appeals. It is a lot of forever, as we call it.
Right.
Again, it's a process. It's the same thing, unfortunately, and I'll use the analogy of cancer. You're diagnosed with cancer. Mm-hmm. You go through a process of remission for the purposes of finishing and going forward. It is a process. It's not a pleasant one.
It's a process like everything else. It's a process.
Like paying your taxes is a process.
Going through a mold remediation problem is a process.
Yeah. Just
had that on my mold podcast. So jumping over, did you have anything else you want to add real quick? Or?
No, that pretty well covers.
Okay. In my dealings with home buyers on a daily basis, by the way, I'm exhausted. I had a long week. I did a house every day. A lot of brand new home buyers, realtors who just were annoying me just by asking me the most repetitive, ridiculous questions.
They want the money. They want the escrow to close.
That they should already know. And today's Saturday, and I'm just like, I don't want to look at a drain pipe. I don't want to look at a heating and cooling system. I just want to sit here and talk today. So that's why we're here today. But anyway, what I get as a constant problem, which annoys the hell out of me, typically when someone hires me, they're getting my inspection agreements pretty quick. And typically...
Contract.
Contract.
Go ahead.
I just slipped. They're getting my contract and payment link typically 2 to 3 days in advance. Most of the time, they digitally sign it. Everything's good. They make the payment. Everything's scheduled. So when I show up, I can just focus on my job. Okay. And then at the end of the inspection, after they supposedly read everything I sent and everything else and all the information I provide to make this a smooth process. And this goes for their realtors too. First thing they ask is, oh, did you check the lawn irrigation system? Well, no, I don't. It's on page 1 of your inspection contract.
And it's on page 2 of the 4-page CREIA Standards of Practice, second column on the left.
And then number 2, by the way, your house has solar. Oh, did they work? I don't expect solar. And that's also on page 1 of your inspection contract. Well, what about the fire sprinkler system? I don't check that either. Okay. Now, keep in mind, I've already gone through my findings, and I told them they have 3 foundation cracks that definitely need repair. You get major drainage problems around the house. You got mold inside the house, what looks like mold inside the house. You've got all kinds of problems here. And these are the questions I get asked first. Not, well, how much is that going to cost? Or how much is it? It's just so outlandish, the questions I get. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is I've actually added, if you look at the front page of my contract there, it should be right under that. If you look right here,
yes,
I added something to my contract because it's a daily occurrence, and I'm just tired of dealing with it. And it seems to help a little bit. I know it's in the CREIA standards of practice, what I don't do, but these are the main things that come up all the time. So I added this in the first page. Be advised, the following systems are outside the scope of this general home inspection and are specifically excluded. If any of these systems are present in subject property, I recommend you contact a qualified professional to inspect and test these systems before your inspection contingency period ends and the close of escrow. Is that okay?
No.
No, okay.
Here's the problem.
All right.
When you make special notation as to some exclusions, and there are other exclusions in the standards of practice, have you waived the others?
Ah.
So the answer is, look, one of the inspectors that I do business with, the day before the inspection, he resends the standards of practice again and says, understand, these are outside the standards of practice. I'll see you there tomorrow.
Got it. Okay.
Now, the reason for doing that is you told them up front when you sent your contract and the standards of practice.
Yep.
You now reiterate before you go the day before, after you get their money and after you have the signed contract. The second time. Why is this so important? It says, I'm always asked these questions. Let me tell you up front so you're not worried about it and you can take steps necessary to approach this issue should it be addressed.
Right.
These are outside the standards of practice. We are generalists. These relate to specialists.
So in other words, take it out of here and just put it in an email body.
Right.
As a reminder.
What this may do, let's assume that you had a really good attorney like me, and of course I'm modest, and let's just assume further.
Are you really?
Listen, I'm just a low-key guy. Bottom line, let's assume that I were to argue this position. I would say, but you included these, but you didn't include those. Why wouldn't my client understand that you're going to do the other because you didn't include them?
Right. Well, the bottom of my contract is the standards of practice.
Of course, but
So it all comes together.
But you specifically identified these.
Right.
But
Those are the most frequently asked.
Okay. The point is, sometimes being the greatest guy there is in helping people is putting the noose around your own neck.
Got it.
You got to remember, you have a job. You only do your job. I told you before we started this about the roofer. The one I was asked to do this plaintiff case because it was very problematic. It was a personal friend, and we wanted to help his friend. And this house was a disaster. And a roofer came, and I got to tell you, I told the guy, walk away from it or get a rescission. Just get a rescission. You don't want any part of this. You don't want any part of this house at all. The whole thing was, if you pushed it too hard on one corner, the whole thing fall down. And of course, they added a bedroom with no permits and stuff like that.
Right.
So anyway, you've got the story. And this roofer, who was, obviously they didn't interview him first because the guy wouldn't get on my, I wouldn't let him on front lawn. I'm on my front lawn because you just see a person and you look at them. And it was automatically a no before we started. Okay. I mean, he wasn't out of the truck 2 feet before I said no. Okay.
Right.
That's what I would have done. So anyway,
Yeah.
turns out that he got up on the roof, saw there was problems as part of the home inspection. He said, excuse me, I have to get down. He got down off the roof. This is the story. He got down from the roof, went to his truck, filled out a form and said, here, I'm making an offer to fix your roof. Right there. On the spot, hadn't even given his home inspection report yet. And he was hired to do a home inspection only.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little fishy, people.
Well, it's a violation of law.
Absolutely. We're not supposed to. Well, if we do offer any kind of a repair service, it has to be after 12 months, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That he hadn't even got the job yet. I mean, he hadn't even done
Turn the report in, yeah.
And he missed one whole wall that was completely decayed by termites because he didn't want to remove a screen. And the screen was right there and falling off. All he had to do was get a flashlight.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a little crazy.
Yeah, I passed on the case.
Did you?
Yeah, as soon as I got this stuff and found out what's going on and whether the guy had insurance or not, it's another story. But the whole thing was that way.